except where them hands, where them holes, where them throws, you know what I'm saying?
This is why I train in martial arts.
I was having a conversation with someone today, and this person was warning me. He's usually got pretty good instincts. He was warning me about his instincts about somebody that I deal with from time to time. I'm not using names on purpose. And he said, "You got to be careful of that guy, man, because I think that guy kind of sounds like he's a really good manipulator. So I don't know how you're going to handle him." And my thing is, and I told him, I hope I can get this right. I don't handle manipulators because I handle manipulation by not dealing with it. I cannot out manipulate a manipulator because I'm not a manipulator. The best way I know something about manipulation, I've been reading, just the more I read, the more you learn about manipulation and human behavior and all that type of stuff and narcissism and all that good stuff or bad stuff. But no, I know I'm not manipulative by nature, so I'm not going to try to match wits with somebody that's manipulative by nature. I thought about, when I was dealing with the narcissist, oh man, I'm gonna learn about narcissism because I read about it before. And see, that's the thing. I had read about. I'm trying to turn so I look at a sensible angle on this thing. I had read about narcissism, but because I'm not a narcissist, I mean, I read a lot about narcissism back in the day. I just lost interest in it and I stopped looking at it because it was like, who's going to need this? You can't see that coming. But really, it's because that wasn't really in my nature. I exposed myself to it, but I really couldn't master it because it wasn't something I didn't have something to really hang it on. But fortunately for me, when I did have to deal with the narcissist, that other stuff was I think it was floating around in the back of my mind. So it really helped out a lot. It was like I knew something was off, so I could react to it. And I eventually, once I realized what was going on, then I could eventually research more. And then first I went into the amateur psychiatry research I'd done. So then when I found out what it was, then I was like, I have to abandon everything I think I have known at this point because I'm totally out of my league here. So that allowed me to go back to the Bible, and then that allowed me to go back into my yoga bag. And then what I could do is I could use biblical principles. But to force these feelings, you can do that with your breath. You can do that with your movement. You can have your movement and your breath influence your emotions. It's not just that I feel a certain way and I do something. What you do can go back on the inside and handle what you're going on. What's going on. I'm gonna pause this for a second. All right, pausing works. So I was saying, so just be, your emotions can drive what you do, but what you do on the outside can go back in and influence how you feel. That's why you have to be careful what you do, and that's why you have to be careful with what you allow inside of your subconscious, because that can influence how you feel and how you think. So that's why all that stuff is important. Everything it all feeds off of each other. So that's why you have to be careful not only what you do, but what you ingest. Like a computer system, what you ingest into it is what's going to be put out of it. So I don't deal with manipulators by manipulating. I just try to stay on my square, stay on my values, stay on what I know. Because that's their game. I'm not going to play it. I told them, from a martial arts standpoint, it is just like, and I want to pick on some styles now, but it's just like when strikers fight grapplers. Contrary to popular opinion, real fights that I've seen, and again, I'm going to say this is based on what I've seen. I have not seen every fight in the world, okay? But real fights that I have seen, guess who wins the fight? Usually the striker. Usually specifically somebody that's really good at kicking, or if they're not really good at kicking, they're really good at punching or kicking and punching. The striker. Why? Because they can keep the fight at a distance. And the grappler doesn't get a chance to grab them. Like when I was a teenager coming up, A lot of people used to poo-poo grappling all the time. I didn't. Maybe it's because I subconsciously remembered the judo I learned when I was little, so I knew there was some value in it. But they used to poo-poo grappling because they said, "Oh, that's for people that can't fight. You just trying to grab me because you can't throw hands." And when someone tried to grab them, they basically shake the person off, and you hit them, and you keep things at a striking distance. You keep things at punching distance. You keep things at kicking distance. You keep things at punch kick distance. Because to grapple is to grab, and if you cannot grab the person, you're not going to affect your techniques on the person. So instead of doing that with some of these people, because they allow themselves to be mentally bullied by MMA and by the grappling arts, they get in a fight with a grappler and then they try to out grapple a grappler. And what do you think's going to happen? You're going to get destroyed. You try, especially, and this is where it's even worse. Like people who know they don't have a lot of ground experience at all. Well, I'm going to say they don't have ground grappling experience. Try to ground grapple with someone who's got ground grappling experience. And what do you think is going to happen? You're going to lose. You're going to get destroyed. This is the inverse has happened too. I'm not going to pick on this fighter because I have a very fleeting casual UFC association. I barely know who's in it. I know what it is, and I barely know who's in it. And that's about it. Like, I know what is his name? I know Conor McGregor is an MMA fighter. I know Ronda Rousey is an MMA fighter. I know that Anderson Silva is an MMA fighter. That's like it. Okay, so I'm not deep MMA fan here. But even I have seen what has happened when, because same thing happened in reverse. When someone who is a grappler tries to outstrike a striker, it does not work. You need to keep your strategy at whatever your fighting is going to be. But especially if you're talking about contest, you keep it where you're strong. Okay? You work your assets. That principle for combat sport can be applied to life in that when there's conflicts, you keep things where you're strong. Like if you know you have a bad temper, for example, then you know that my temper may flare up. I need to mind my temper in this situation. There are other people who are talkers. They're very good talkers. So when they have a conflict, they like to talk it out. If you know you're not a talker, don't try to out-talk a talker. You may try to out-listen them, but don't try to out-talk a talker if you're not a talker. You see what I'm saying? Don't play this other person's game. Play your game or don't play any games at all. Okay? So that's definitely a martial arts principle that I use and I apply to life. It's like I don't get engaged with people. I don't mess with people. It's like people that are thugs or whatever the heck, like I'm in the streets and all that. I don't get mixed up and try to have conflicts with them. I'm not disrespectful towards people that are like that. I use courtesy and integrity. But it's like I'm not going to out-street a street person because I'm not a street person. I'm not going to do that. I can't out-academic a professor because I'm not a professor. That's not my forte. I can't out-medic a doctor because I'm not a doctor. I can't out-lawyer a lawyer. I definitely can't out-cop a cop. I know what my lane is and I stay there and I function in that lane. And when you do that, when people try to come at you and manipulate you, if you have a grasp on what you can and can't do, it actually makes it harder for them to manipulate you. So what they're going to do is they're just going to go on to someone else. 9 times out of 10, because I ran into the 10%, that's just like, hey, ooh, we got a challenge. And that can happen too. So if you want to, since the theme of this channel is martial arts, if you want to win a quote unquote fight, whether the fight is a physical fight or a mental, spiritual, emotional one, you do not get dragged down to the ground with people who love being on the ground when you don't know a thing about being on the ground. That it's like that old expression, don't roll in the mud with mud with pigs because pigs love the mud. If you want to learn something about the mud, then you do like I did. You're going to have to study the mud, just like a lot of quote unquote stand up fighters had to study quote unquote ground game. But that's the only way you're really going to know it enough to frustrate it. Unless what you're going to do is like the initial ground fighting I learned, when it really wasn't the initial one. The original ground fighting I remember, not learned, but remember, was you strike, 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 you kicking and stuff, you striking, you kicking, and then when you fall on the ground, you continue striking. Okay? You continue going at it. Now, striking on the ground, like I've said in other videos, is a little too deadly. It's too deadly to be kicking people when they're coming at you on the ground because you can kill them because your legs are strong. There's even a natural choke that you can do that I'm not going to say what it is. It was the only choke I learned. This is the only leg choke I learned for years before I actually went and got a shonan in judo. And it's still my strongest technique. And the technique is actually in judo. They don't allow it in contest judo. I see why they don't allow it in contest judo, because you could kill somebody with it. And it's a great self-defense technique, and it's really easy. It's real easy to do too. I would say you actually do it all the time. Well, you know or not. I don't teach it to people. I taught it to my daughter. That's my daughter. I taught it to my daughter, and she worked. I almost went out. I was like, oh yeah, this is effective. I was tapping. He was like, Dad, I didn't even put it on really. I was like, okay, you got it. I was tapping. I was like, that's it. I'm out. I see why they banned it, because you could kill somebody. You could break somebody's neck. You could crush their body with it. So no. I see why it's banned for contest. So don't, just like we tell martial artists, if you're a stand-upper, don't go down on the ground with a ground person. If you're a ground person, don't try to stand up with this stand-up person. Try to pull them down to the ground. The only way you will be able to function with both, and you're still going to have one that you prefer more than the other. Like I still prefer standing, even though people have told me with my local competition, oh, he's good on the ground, and well, that's because the teachers I have are good on the ground. But when it comes to real self-defense, I still prefer to be on my feet, man. Come on. I use the ground stuff as restraint, as in I don't really want to hurt this person, but I have to stop this person, so I will restrain this person. But during COVID-19, if you ain't in my immediate family, I'm not restraining you because that's not my job. Unless the police say, hey, and they will have to point me out and call me out and bust me out. Hey, Cecil, or you, hey, I know you that karate guy. Hey, get over here and help us. They'd have to do that for me to go. They'd have to shame a brother into doing it. But as far as volunteering, somebody acting up, COVID, during the COVID, no. Nah, you on your own. You want to act up? Help us pull this man away. Social, no. No, he'd have to be hurting a shorty. And by shorty, I mean as an actual short person, little child. You teen, you grown, you on your own. That's a new saying. I just made it up. If you're teen or you're grown, you're on your own. Nope. It's not my job. I don't have the equipment to do that job. I'm not doing it. So anyway, like I was saying, if you want to learn, if you want to be able to mix it up with these people like that, it's like I said, in emotional games, it's just like with physical conflict, emotional conflict. If you know them in the tip, you know they're quote unquote evil or whatever it is, just don't play. Don't play. Just like the standard advice for narcissists. The best way to win in a relationship with a narcissist is just to end it and just get out, just escape, just go away. Just like if you want to get into a fight with somebody that's got tons of what I call violence experience, honestly, I don't care how many black belts you got, just get away. Just get away. Stun them and run. That's Grandmaster Neil's thing. Stun and run. Stun them and get out. Just don't engage with them people. And so if you really want to keep it physical, You know, if you really want to know how to frustrate a grappler, you're going to have to respect it. That's what I will say. Respect the grapple style and learn it to at least get a black belt in it. And if you grapple, you want to learn how to frustrate strikers. Respect the striking styles and get a black belt in one of them. You still want to have your favorite thing that you do, but you know enough of the other side to where you can frustrate it. Truly frustrate it. You may even have some basics in it, but you know intellectually why you don't want to deal with that. And really, if you're a good person, you could do that with the bad stuff. And that doesn't mean I'm going to go become a drug dealer or something like that. No. There are plenty of books. There's plenty of news stories that you can read. There are plenty of books, news stories, videos, and people who you can watch lectures of people say, I used to do X. This is what I did in that lifestyle. This is why you shouldn't do that lifestyle. That principle applies all kinds of ways. So you can learn enough about another way to stay more and more in accordance with your own way. And really, if you're a Christian and you would take the time to read your Bible, the Bible will tell you how and why you shouldn't fellowship. If you're a light, you shouldn't fellowship with darkness. Okay? So that's all I have to say. Just, if somebody is really gamey, and I mean they're really good, I'm using that term wrong. If somebody is a really good game player and you're not, and they're trying to play games with you, just don't play. Just don't play. Get out the game, in the game. It's not worth it. The only games that are worth playing are the actual physical games that have prizes at the end where you can win a medal, and their rules. You know, physical contests or chess, checkers. I won't say card games because some of y'all like to gamble and drink at those. So thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this with people that talk about the martial arts and apply it to their lives. And peace. And thank you for your time. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Be blessed.